Welcome to Leadership Lessons from the Seat of the CEO. Today I have the privilege of a conversation with Cecile. She's Global President of a large global organization, and Cecile shares with us the journey of preparing for her role as Global President, transitioning into the role and finding a way to fully occupy that seat despite the fact that it was occupied for a considerable period of time by her predecessor. We learned about the journey of being clear on who she is and how she's prepared herself to lead the organization through transformative levels of change. I hope you enjoy the conversation. Cecile, welcome. Thank you very much for making the trip to be with me here in London. It's an absolute pleasure to have you, and even more so to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, and I'm delighted to be with you too, Tess.
Thank you. So as you know, the essence of this series of conversations is really diving into what it's like to sit in the seat of the CEO, or sometimes called Global President, the person who's really holding the organization and steering it. But I'd love to start with what it was like for you moving into and getting ready for the role that you're sitting in. Say a little bit around that journey for you.
Well, I must say very clearly, I never thought I would be a CEO. So, some people have figured this out. They have a clear direction. My path to it was more a path of discovery. Discovery of, the things I was good at, the thing I could impact. What was sitting in a way at the crossroad of who I am deeply as a person and my own purpose. What the world needs, what the company needs, and how to actually continue to stretch myself, to learn, and to see where I could have the biggest impact. And that's how I got there.
Amazing. And if you could bring your thoughts and your memory and your embodied memory, meaning what it felt like in those phases, can you dial back to the moment when that path of those crossroads opened up, and how was that as you looked at this opportunity? What came up for you?
I think it's interesting because it came more out of the mirroring of what others saw in me,
right,
rather than what I could project myself into, if it makes sense.
Yes.
I think people could see me in that role before I could see myself in there, and so the crossroads was people asking me, people I had a lot of respect for, who were in a higher up position, or peers, who say, have you ever thought of, leading a business? I'm a marketeer initially. So I grew up as a marketeer for half of my career and then started to orient differently. And so really this is other people looking at me and saying, have you ever thought of doing this? And I was like, really? And, one of my big engine is learning and discovering. And so actually, I think that that teaser got me to explore.
Yes. And I do recall a really lovely conversation I had with you a little while ago in this phase. And it was a moment where you were getting a photo shoot. In this early preparation phase, and it was like there was another version of you needed to be in that photo shoot because you hadn't quite stepped into the full belief yet. Maybe say a little bit around how you handled that duality of not quite believing it, but being willing to go for the discovery.
Yeah, I think there's been inside of me some really hesitation about one, can I do it? Would I be good at it? What I like to do things well. I like to be good at what I do, to do it, properly and to have a good impact. When you're a CEO, you impact the life of many people. You impact the business. You impact your partners. So it was really important for me to really feel, of course I'm going to learn. I don't have it all, but I need to know I can do it. So there was that kind of thing. And there is a moment where I say, can I do it? And then you move to, I will do it. I'm going for it, right?
Yes.
So there is this moment there is also a positional thing about being the number one in the company. And it was not natural for me to kind of see myself. I never aspired to a position. I aspired to impact.
Yes.
But, it also comes with this position to be the number one. And then it has to be, shot in a certain way in the picture. I'm like, inhabiting the role has been something that I had to really step into.
Yes.
There's something about deeply rooted in the female psyche, Can I be that, person at the top if it makes sense? So I think I had to go beyond that kind of framing.
Yes.
A framing that is embodied in a way.
I love that. And just one more aspect I'd love to delve into in this preparation phase of fully occupying the seat. I'm aware that you took the seat from someone who'd been there for quite some time. Could you just say a little bit around how that was, making it your own?
Well, first, I was very conscious. I've been observing from where I am in a big company and also, in some other companies, that taking the seat of your boss when he stays your boss is not an easy thing to do, for both, by the way.
Yes.
And is a risky process. I mean, there's a lot of failures in this.
Yes.
And so, again, with what I told you, if I go there, I want to be successful in there, and I want to be successful for the people and the business I am in service of. So it has to work. So we had actually very transparent conversation with my boss and say, okay, this is statistically difficult, the results.
Yes.
How are we going to think about this? And how do we do the work? And how do we get some support to do the work to facilitate this transition and have that conversation of, what are you proud of? What do you leave behind? What you hope for the future? And, having this contracting and this moment where we truly pass the baton. And that is something I've learned from myself in this transition. And now as a leader, I ensure it's facilitated on my team. Because you've got to have, as you say, the seat clean.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. And one of the things I love about what you've said there, which isn't common, or not as common as I think would be helpful, is you knew when to ask for help in that process, and that you were both open to having that conversation facilitated. So that's incredibly inspirational for anyone looking in as they are getting ready for that kind of a transition. So let's now go fully into the role. You've been in your role for a little while. It probably feels like a long time already, I suspect, but you're very much, if I may observe, very much in the seat, and you've taken absolutely your space. So I'd love to now just journey into what it's been like. And in particular, I'd love to ask you to unpack maybe a few or at least one particularly difficult moment in your journey of leadership where you've had to dig deep, right down inside for a level of resource. Which opportunity would you pull to the surface and share with us?
So it's been 2.5 years. To your point, I already feel it's gone super fast. It's going faster and faster, I have to say. But there are phases indeed, and so there is the moment where you transition, and we talked about it, but also taking the seat, taking the team, making your first big decisions, and sometimes they come quite early. But then there is like when you're on the second cycle of building your plan and really having the team that you've built for yourself. I think this is really a different phase. Critical moments, they always come when you're facing a difficulty and something that you really can't resolve by yourself, or either a new problem or a scale problem that actually is going beyond anything you've seen before.
Yes.
If you are actually a CEO, this will happen to you all the time, so you've got to be prepared for that. And there are deeply moments as well where you have to make very difficult decisions. So I can pick, a moment where I had to make a difficult decision of, am I going to really look into starting this big operating model transformation in my company. I knew this would be it was absolutely critical. It was important, but it would really deeply impact the people I lead, the way they work, and so I was getting prepared for something really big. And so I had to dig deep in myself, but also I had to ask my team to dig deep.
Yes.
So really to think about the type of behaviors, leadership, tactics or approach we used before are not going to be sufficient for what we
Yes.
now. So we really had quite an extensive conversation about the businesses we wanted to create.
Yes.
To do this in service of, a vision, a purpose, and a why we were doing this.
Yeah.
And then really going back to each of us, expressing our fears. Expressing our fears.
Yeah.
Expressing our vulnerabilities. I've done this before, but I've not done that before. So I don't know. What type of support do we need? And that, created a sense of, hey, we're going to get the support we need in the places where we need.
Yes.
And two, there's going to be tough moments. We knew that this is never by consensus. We knew that at some point we need to make decisions where not everyone would be in there. So we discussed about how we would make those decisions. But we also knew that sometimes it would be hard. And we say, okay, we know we're going to face into this, and we're going to talk about it as we face it.
Yeah.
So we created those moments where we could express our doubts, our fears, our frustrations along the way.
It sounds like you had a really great mix of open and honest conversation, but you created the safety for you to be able to take that conversation perhaps a little bit deeper than maybe it had been before.
Yes.
And I suspect you led by example in that, knowing
I started sharing, my own doubts and fears, but also convictions. And this actually the absolute conviction of that it was the right thing to do.
Yes.
That I had pre-built for myself before, because again, you really have to prepare for those moments as well. It doesn't come.
Yeah.
So I had interrogated myself on, what is it that I need to come forward with in terms of my own leadership to actually get through this, and where is it that I know it's going to be hard, and I shared that.
Beautiful. I love that. And maybe if I could just delve a little bit more in this for this example, and when you're working with yourself, could you give us a little slice of what kind of conversation you were having with yourself in that moment?
The first conversation is always, but why? Why?
Yeah.
Why do we need to do this, and why now? And how? There is, if we are going to do big transformation that are difficult, that are going to have some impact, how do I want to get that done? Really, as hard as it needs to be. For example, I always wanted to be respectful.
Yes.
Of every human being around.
Yes.
And that was, for example, one of the critical elements, like the resurfacing my core values, which are courage, respect, making an impact, and also joy, finding joy in everything we do. So ensuring that, I lead from my very strong backbone, So
yes.
that is very important. And then I think thinking about the impact, And you can't know everything at the start of the transformation, but starting to project and say, okay, preparing you mentally for the fact that, yes, you're going to face resistance. It's going to be overwhelming at some point because, when you touch the operating model of a large international organization, you have impact every region, every few years. So there is a complexity into it. So really, you're starting to figure out the fact that there's going to be a specific support system, a specific approach to this, and really ensuring there is space to organize, structure, and resource.
Yes.
The resourcing piece is very important. Resourcing the work and resourcing the leaders of the work.
Perfect. Completely makes sense. Thank you for sharing that. Let's transition out of that and come back very much to you. What have you learned about yourself that you carry into this next phase with you?
You probably have heard from my accent that I'm French. And, we have a system of education in France that, we tend to focus on the things that are not good enough and are, needs to be fixed. And one of the things I've learned, through this process and throughout my career is really that there is no substitute for really honoring your own strengths and ensuring that this is what you bring forward and you nurture first. I know that there's a lot of things I can do better. And at some point, what I have to bring at the table is who I am fundamentally and the things that I really do well. And so moving from a state of humility and sometimes being overwhelmed by all the things I don't yet do well, I moved also very strongly to occupying my space, occupying my strength, and actually sharing these as, the best gifts I have to give and nurturing them. So this, for me, it continues to be, in any shape or form, a strong anchoring.
Mm-hmm.
And then knowing that for the rest, yes, I will learn. And this is also where I need to ask help.
Yes.
And this is not easy because you live in a world where, and especially the role of CEO is sometimes, flagged as, a heroic position where you got to have it all. Yeah, I think this big learning of, yes, this is a lifelong personal and work journey to actually become the leader you want to be, and also to learn the skills that you need to be at this position and enhance from your strengths.
Yes.
For the rest, build a diverse team that is very strong in the places where you have areas to improve, and ensure that you create an environment where these combined skills can work best together.
Fantastic. Thank you. I'd love to hone in on one particular area of your strengths. And I think it's something that is a real leverage point. You are, in my experience of working and being alongside you over the last number of years, and I know that your team would absolutely say this, incredibly intuitive and also heart-centered. And that's an unusual mix for the role that you fully occupy. Could you say how people have experienced that? And more importantly, how do you allow them to then bring their heart into the work as well?
This is really one of my core philosophy that as a leader, you lead as a full self. I lead with my brain, and I lead with my heart, and I also lead sometimes with my guts. Sometimes, and you'll see it in life. Sometimes you don't have the time. You need to make a fast decision. And, here, experience matters. And, a sense of, what's less risky will help you. So I think you need to know, and you need to understand at which point of time you use more one or the other. Yeah, I sense. But I think the best possible version of yourself as a leader comes from being able to be here fully,
Yes.
So including with your heart. And I know that sometimes when you speak like this, that you can lead with your heart, it feels like you're soft or it feels like you're weak. I don't think so. One of my values is courage. And courage, the etymology of courage is heart and agere, which means to act from a place of heart. That's where courage comes from. And so I believe it's very courageous to lead with your heart because you expose yourself. It is vulnerable, but it's also the way where you engage with humans.
Yes.
And how does a company succeed? A company succeeds when you understand the humans you serve, your customers, your consumers, and what's in their lives, what they need, and you respect this really fundamentally, and you actually understand the people who actually do the work to serve them. So I think being human is a strength for leading business.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah. Wonderful. Love that. So let's start moving to a close. What would be your gift to someone coming through the organization, preparing, and they may not necessarily have CEO role in their horizon, but they may be being marked as having the potential. So a little bit like yourself, you hadn't quite believed it, but people could see the opportunity and the potential. What advice and counsel would you give those folks?
I think there is a dimension that is absolutely critical to occupy the position, which is to have a very strong backbone.
Yes.
As a person and as a leader, in terms of why you do what you do, your core values, the thing you really care about, because that creates a compass. And as much as you're going to be exposed to all sorts of contexts, and we get into uncharted territory every day, right?
Yes.
You can't control that. But what you can really work on constantly is always to have a better understanding of the leader you want to be.
Yes.
Always get a better understanding of, where you get your energy from and what sort of energy you give to people.
Yeah.
What are your key strengths? Where do you need to equip and continue to learn? And you need to continue to nurture all that. And this is work.
Yeah.
So one of my advice when I mentor people is self-development is work. It is not something that just comes because you occupy the function. You have to be intentional about it.
Yes.
And one of the intentionalities is really work on what's the leader you want to be. And try to always who is the leader?
Yes.
And try to always get the way you act to be as close as possible to that intention.
That feels like an incredible place to pause. Thank you so much. That was rich, meaningful, and incredibly valuable for people getting ready. Thank you.